A while back I did a video on where the 40k movie franchise will likely begin. It was my most successful video to date, but I made an error and omitted one series, which in hindsight could be a good candidate for the show. Certainly, I think at least a couple of hundred of you commented about this series in the original video to point out my error. So I'd like to have a look at what the series was and why it may or may not be a good candidate. Firstly, I just want to update you where the actual project is, as I've seen a lot of duff information on the internet recently surrounding what the show will actually be about and how far along it is in production. To make it absolutely clear, as of making this video, no one, apart from a few people at Games Workshop and Amazon, knows where the show or movie will be set or when it will release. About the time I made the first video, Amazon and Games Workshop had signed an agreement in principle. As of the 18th of December last year, Games Workshop and Amazon have signed the full agreement. This will basically, in legal speak, hash out what parts of Games Workshop's IP Amazon can use. The agreement does encompass both film and television set within the Warhammer 40,000 universe, so we could see them utilise both of these mediums. It will not be set in the Warhammer Fantasy universe though, but Games Workshop have confirmed there is an option for Amazon to license the equivalent rights after the Warhammer 40,000 production is released. Lastly, I don't think you'll see any announcement or information officially until after June 2024, at the very least, and likely way further down the line. The reason for my assumption is when Games Workshop released its statement about the production in December, they specifically stated they were not making any changes to their financial forecast for the 53-week period ending on the 2nd of June 2024. If the Amazon deal was closer to fruition, then you would probably expect it to factor into their financial forecast for that period, which it isn't. The only other information we have was from an interview Henry did a month or so back stating that the project was early days.
I can't say too much again. It's early days still.
And he was still in charge.
To have this opportunity to bring it to the screen and be at the tiller.
I'm glad to see that he's still emphasising the importance of a faithful adaptation from the source material.
So it can be faithful is key to me.
If I had to make a guess, Henry and a bunch of writers are probably sitting in a room tossing ideas around. Now we are up to speed, what was the series I missed in the original video? It is, of course, the hero of the Imperium himself, Commissar Caiaphas Cain. For those that don't know who Cain is, he is a famous commissar who is actually a massive coward. A commissar in 40k is a political officer tasked with maintaining discipline and loyalty within Imperial Guard regiments, and are supposed to lead by example. Cain's escapades usually involve him trying to get out of dangerous taskings, which almost always land him in more trouble. He's basically a mix between Edmund Blackadder.
Blackadder! Attention! And why, Captain, are you not advancing across no man's land?
Well, sir, called me a bluff old traditionalist, but I was always taught to wait for the order to attack before attacking.
And Flashman, but reversed.
Of the dauntless heroism he displayed in Afghanistan.
Whereas Flashman thinks he is the real deal, but is a huge coward in reality, Cain on the other hand is always upfront that he is a coward, though he is competent like Blackadder. So why would Caiaphas Cain be a potentially good starting point? Firstly is the unique perspective, as the story is told from the view of an inquisitor writing up Cain's very honest memoirs, which is something you don't see too often in TV or movies. Also, because Cain isn't some superhuman warrior, he's just a bog-standard human who is thrust into extraordinary situations, relying on his wit, luck and survival instincts to navigate the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. He's not your typical stoic hero, he's flawed, cynical and self-preserving, which makes him more human and accessible to audiences. I think that's what makes him such a popular character. His number one motivation is surviving, which is a lot more relatable to audiences rather than the faith-crazed suicidal maniacs that inhabit Warhammer 40k. Secondly is the humour and wit. The series is known for this, often using Cain's dry observations and sarcastic commentary to lighten the dark tone of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. In fact, what is often seen as quite ordinary in the Warhammer 40,000 universe is completely absurd to Cain and us today. This balance of humour and grim dark elements could appeal to a wide range of viewers and really play on the satirical elements of the Warhammer universe. Adapting this tone faithfully to screen could be challenging though, as it requires striking a delicate balance between the grim dark atmosphere of Warhammer 40,000 and the lighter, more comedic elements of Cain's character. Getting this balance wrong could result in a product that feels tonally inconsistent or fails to capture the essence of the source material. Thirdly, the Caiaphas Cain series covers a variety of settings and conflicts within the Warhammer 40,000 universe, from battling orcs and chaos to facing off against Tyranids and Tau. This provides ample material for compelling storylines and introduce new audiences to various Warhammer 40,000 factions, which I think from Games Workshop's perspective will be a huge positive. On top of that, Cain is usually set against the backdrop of huge wars, but in his cowardly attempts to get away from them, the actual action is pretty small scale, often taking place away from the front lines. Due to the reduced scale, there is a potential for a lower budget as opposed to a setting like the Horus Heresy, which features massive battles. I could see Amazon opting for a steady approach to Warhammer 40,000, as it doesn't have the proven track record at the box office that big shows like The Rings of Power did with Lord of the Rings. And lastly, while the series has its fair share of humour, it also features intense action sequences and dramatic moments. Cain's adventures are filled with battles, betrayals and moral dilemmas, providing plenty of material for gripping storytelling and exciting action scenes. The biggest downside I see to the Cain series being the first show, aside from the difficulty balancing the tone, would be the character of Cain himself. He is a nuanced and multifaceted character with a complex mix of self-interest, heroism and dry wit. Successfully translating this complexity to the screen would require skilled writing and acting to fully capture the nuances of his character. If mishandled, Cain could come across as unlikable or one-dimensional, which could turn viewers off. Potentially they're easier heroes to write and portray on screen. Furthermore, while Caiaphas Cain has a dedicated fanbase within the Warhammer community, his appeal may be more limited compared to factions within the setting. Unlike the iconic Space Marines or the epic battles of the Horus Heresy, Cain's adventures focus more on individual heroics and smaller scale conflicts. I also don't see Henry wasting his one shot on playing a Warhammer 40,000 character on a baseline human, when he could play the likes of Primarchs or the Captain General. So I hope I've atoned for missing the hero of the Imperium off my last video. Personally, I see Eisenhorn as the most likely series they would choose, followed by Gaunt's Ghost over the likes of Cain. Despite this, the series still holds promise for an entertaining adaptation that could introduce new audiences to the rich world of Warhammer 40,000. The other option, of course, is Henry and the team could write their own stories so they're not bound by the rigidity of following an established series. All I know is that exciting times are certainly ahead. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with my thoughts or if you have any other ideas where the series could be set.